I'll never forget that moment, the blue glow of his phone lighting up my face in the darkness. One notification, one name, and suddenly 6 years of marriage, trust, and everything I thought was real shattered in 2 a.m. silence. But what I discovered next wasn't just about betrayal. It was something darker, something that would change everything. Before we dive into this story, if you've ever felt that gut-wrenching moment when someone you trust breaks your heart, please hit that like button so we know you're with us. And subscribe, because these stories of hidden desires and shocking secrets deserve to be seen. Your comments below mean everything. Let's go. My name is Sarah, and I used to believe in forever. Not the fairy tale kind anymore, not after that night. But back then, when everything was still beautiful, I believed in it with my whole heart. We met at university. James. That's what I need to call him now, because saying his real name still hurts. He was a year ahead of me, studying business, with that easy confidence that makes some men magnetic. He was the kind of man who walked into a room and people noticed. And somehow, inexplicably, he noticed me. I remember the night he asked me out. We were at a party thrown by mutual friends, and everyone was dancing, laughing, lost in their own worlds. But James saw me sitting by the window, looking out at the city lights. He didn't use a line. He just came and sat next to me and asked what I was thinking about. "I'm wondering what happens after tonight," I said honestly. I was 19, naive, and far too ready to feel something real. "That's up to you," he said, and he smiled in a way that felt like destiny. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. It was perfect. A sunset proposal on a beach, the ring catching the golden light, his eyes holding promises. My mother cried. My sister, Emily, my younger sister, who I was closer to than anyone in the world, she screamed and jumped up and down like a child. We all went home that night, and for the first time, I remember feeling like my life was exactly where it should be. Emily and I have always been inseparable. She was 7 years younger, so I practically raised her when our parents worked late nights. I taught her how to do her makeup. I helped her through her first heartbreak. I was the first person she called with good news and the person she came to with her secrets. We didn't just have a sisterly bond. We had something unbreakable, or at least, I thought we did. The wedding was beautiful. White roses, soft piano music, 200 people watching as I promised to love James forever. As I stood there in that dress, my hand shaking slightly as I slipped the ring on, I truly believed forever was possible. I believed that we had something worth fighting for, something worth protecting. The first year of marriage was almost perfect. Almost because nothing is ever truly perfect. We argued about money, about whose turn it was to call my mother-in-law, about the little things that all married couples argue about. But we also laughed. We traveled. We made love with the kind of urgency that comes with newlyweds, and we spent slow mornings just talking about our dreams. James was ambitious. He climbed the ranks at his firm quickly, maybe too quickly. He started working late. First, it was once a week, then twice, then most nights. I told myself it was just a phase, that he was building our future, establishing himself so we could eventually travel the world and have the life we dreamed of. I should have seen the cracks forming earlier. By year 3, our marriage had settled into a rhythm that felt hollow. We were ships passing in the night. He'd come home at 9 or 10 p.m., we'd eat in silence, we'd go to bed where he'd scroll on his phone for hours while I pretended to sleep next to him. The intimacy had faded. Not dramatically, it wasn't like we had some explosive fight. It was just a slow, quiet dying. He started keeping his phone closer. I remember the exact moment I noticed. We were lying in bed, and he got a text message. Nothing unusual. But the way he immediately flipped his phone over, the way his jaw tightened, the way he got up and went to the bathroom, those tiny moments added up. I wasn't the kind of wife who checked his phone. I wasn't the kind of woman who didn't trust her husband. Or at least, I told myself that. In reality, I was becoming increasingly paranoid, spending hours on our couch scrolling through my own phone, watching people on social media who seemed to have the marriages I was losing. And then there was Emily. Emily came into her own around the same time James started checking out. She was 22, finally done with university, beautiful in that way that made people do double takes. She had just moved to the city, back to our hometown, and we were trying to spend more time together, or at least I was. She seemed distant. She'd come for family dinners and wouldn't make eye contact with James. When he tried to joke with her, she'd give these short, clipped responses. I thought it was just because she was adjusting to the city, dealing with her own relationships, her own life drama. I didn't think much of it. I was so blind. It was a Wednesday night in October. I remember because we'd argued about him not being home in time for my work dinner, the only event where I'd asked him to prioritize me in months. He said he had back-to-back meetings. I said I understood, but I didn't. We didn't argue, though. We just didn't speak about it. That night, he came home around 1:30 a.m. I was still awake, reading in bed, though not really reading, just staring at the same page, waiting to hear his car pull up. He didn't go to the bathroom. He didn't change. He just laid down next to me, and within moments, his breathing became heavy. He'd fallen asleep immediately. I don't know what made me do it. I have no good explanation for the choice I made next. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was the accumulation of every tiny doubt, every moment where something felt off. Maybe I was just tired of not knowing. I waited exactly 10 minutes, long enough for his sleep to deepen. Then, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs, I reached over and picked up his phone. The screen was dark. I knew his passcode. He'd typed it in front of me 1,000 times, and I'd memorized it without even meaning to. My hand was shaking as I entered the numbers. The phone unlocked. I don't know what I was looking for. Some evidence of infidelity, proof of what I already knew on some level was happening. I opened his text messages, scrolling through conversations with his colleagues, his mother, his best friend. Everything seemed normal, innocent. And then I saw it. A contact named simply with the first letter, E. The conversations were sparse in the text app, which meant they'd probably been deleted. But there was one thread that hadn't been cleared, just a few messages from that afternoon. I miss you. Can't stop thinking about you. Tonight, she's asleep. My eyes blurred. My chest felt like it was collapsing. I thought I might vomit. Emily. No, that couldn't be right. I read it again, my hands trembling so violently I nearly dropped the phone. The reality of what I was reading kept sliding away from me. This was James. This was my sister. This was impossible. But the worst part, the part that made me feel like I was floating outside my body, watching this scene from above. The last message wasn't from James. It was from E, sent an hour ago, while he was supposedly in meetings. I love you. I'm sorry about tonight. I love you so much. And his response, timestamped 11:47 p.m. Love you too, always. I set the phone down like it was on fire. I got out of bed, my legs shaky, and walked to the bathroom. I locked the door and sat on the tile floor, trying to breathe, trying to understand how the two people I loved most in the world had betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible. Except I was wrong. That wasn't the betrayal. I stayed in that bathroom for probably 30 minutes. I considered leaving. I considered waking him up and screaming, letting all the pain and rage I was feeling explode out of me. Instead, I did something colder. I opened his email on my phone. It was synced, so I had access. That's when I found the real story. There were emails between James and Emily dating back 2 years. 2 years. Half of our marriage. They were hidden in a folder in his drafts, unsent emails, so cleverly buried that I would never have found them if I hadn't been methodically searching for evidence. What I read over the next hour shattered me in ways I'm still processing. Emily, we can't keep doing this. I love Sarah, I do, but you, God, you make me feel alive. When did this happen? When did you become everything I couldn't stop thinking about? Her response, the moment I saw you again after I came home. Don't say you love her, please, because I've been in love with you since I was 16, and knowing you feel something for me. It's the only thing keeping me sane. I felt like I was reading a script from someone else's life, not mine. Not the life I was building with the man I'd married. But as I kept reading, I realized something that made me pause. something that stopped the simple narrative of betrayal and replaced it with something far more complicated. James wasn't happy. He wasn't some villain deliberately deceiving me. He was a man trapped between two loves, unable to choose, unable to let either one go. And Emily was drowning. She wrote things like, "I know this is wrong. I know I'm losing you as my sister because of this, but I can't stop. Every time you touch me, I feel like I'm finally where I'm supposed to be. And every time you leave to go back to her, I feel like I'm dying." He'd written her, "I dream about you every night. I wake up and remember I'm married to someone else, and the guilt is suffocating, but I can't stay away from you. I won't." It was a pattern of messages that showed the kind of desperate, consuming love that doesn't care about right and wrong. They were two people who believed they'd found their soulmate in the worst possible circumstance, and I was the collateral damage. I must have read those emails a dozen times, each time hoping the meaning would change, that I'd misunderstood. But the message was clear. James and Emily were in love, not in lust, not in a moment of weakness, in love. The kind that made them willing to destroy everything, including the sister who had always loved them both unconditionally. When I finally left the bathroom, the sun was starting to come up. James was still asleep. He looked peaceful, innocent, like he didn't have a secret life, like he wasn't actively breaking my heart while I was sleeping next to him. I got dressed in the dark. I went downstairs and called in sick to work. I made coffee with mechanical movements, my body going through motions while my mind was somewhere else entirely. The first thing I did was not confront him. I didn't explode or rage or cry the ugly, desperate tears I was holding back. Instead, I did something colder. I called Emily. "We need to talk," I said when she answered, her voice thick with sleep. "Not over the phone. I'm coming to your apartment." Emily's apartment was a 15-minute drive, but it felt like an hour. The whole way there, I kept replaying memories. Emily as a child, begging to sleep in my room because she had nightmares. Emily at 16, confessing to me that she'd kissed a boy and wasn't sure if it meant she loved him. Emily at 20, looking at James during a family dinner and quickly looking away when I glanced over. Had she looked at him differently that night? Had I missed the signs? She opened the door with a confused expression that immediately turned to concern when she saw my face. "Sarah, what's wrong? Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I walked past her into her small living room, and I waited until she closed the door before I turned around. "How long?" I asked. She went white. I mean, her entire face drained of color. She knew in that moment that I knew. "Sarah, how long?" 2 years, she whispered. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the sound seemed to satisfy something in me, some need to express the magnitude of this betrayal. 2 years. Our entire marriage is falling apart, and for 2 years, you and my husband were, what? Sleeping together. "It's not like that," Emily said, and her voice cracked. "It's not some cheap affair, it's..." She seemed to be searching for words. "It's real, we're real." "You're real?" I could feel my voice getting louder, sharper. "You're real. Emily, he's my husband, and you're my sister. What exactly is real about betraying the person who has done everything for you?" She flinched at that, and I felt a small, petty satisfaction. Good. She should hurt. They both should hurt the way I was hurting. "You don't understand," she said. "You and James, you haven't been connected in years. You're like ghosts in that house. You don't talk, you don't touch, you just exist next to each other. But when he's with me..." "When he's with you, he's committing adultery," I cut her off. "That's what you're about to say, right? When he's with you, he's betraying everything he promised to me. When he's with you, he's breaking us." Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she sat down on her couch like her legs wouldn't hold her up anymore. "I love him," she said quietly, "and I think he loves me too." The words hung there between us, and instead of making me angrier, they made me sad in a way that was almost worse. Because as I stood there looking at my sister, my beautiful, heartbroken sister, I realized something that terrified me. I believed her. I didn't confront James that day. I drove home in a daze, stopped by a pharmacy, and picked up a bottle of wine and some sleeping pills. Not in that dark way. I wasn't trying to hurt myself. But I couldn't face him. I couldn't look at his face and not see him with Emily. I couldn't sleep in that bed and not imagine him in her apartment, his hands in her hair whispering things he'd probably never whispered to me. He came home that evening to find me sitting in the dark living room, the empty wine bottle on the coffee table, waiting. "Sarah," he flipped on the light, and I watched his face as he registered that something was terribly wrong. "Baby, what's going on? Are you sick? Should I call someone?" The tenderness in his voice made me want to scream. "I know about Emily," I said. He went very still. In fact, everything seemed to stop. His breathing, his movement, the pretense that had been holding our marriage together. "I read your emails, the ones in your draft folder. Very clever, by the way, very thorough." He sat down across from me, and for the first time in years, I saw something real in his face. Not pretense, not performance, just raw, devastating emotion. "Sarah, How could you?" I cut him off. "How could you look me in the eye, make love to me, eat dinner with us both, and lie every single day?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I didn't know how to stop." "That's not good enough." "I know." "Do you love me?" I asked. I don't know why I needed to know. Maybe because if he didn't love me, at least the betrayal would make sense. He looked at me with eyes that were breaking, and I realized he was about to tell me the truth. The real truth. "I love the person I was when I married you," he said slowly. "I love the life we built. I love waking up next to someone who knows me. But am I in love with you? Not anymore. I haven't been for a long time." And there it was. The words I both wanted to hear and never wanted to hear. "It started small," he continued. "Emily came to visit and she was different, more grown up, more herself. And I was so unhappy with us, Sarah. I was so trapped. And she saw me. She really saw me. Not as your husband or as someone she should respect, just as James, as a person who was drowning." "So you saved yourself by destroying everything?" I asked bitterly. "No," he said. "I destroyed everything by being too coward to address it directly. I should have come to you. I should have said that our marriage was dying and we needed to either fight for it or let it go. Instead, I hid. I betrayed you. And I hurt Emily in the process because she's been waiting for me to make a choice I couldn't make." I laughed again, that harsh, bitter sound. "What choice? You've already made your choice. You chose her." "I haven't," he said, and there was something in his voice that made me believe him. "That's the problem. I love Emily, but I'm terrified of losing you. I love the stability of our marriage, but I'm suffocating in it. I don't know how to be honest about what I want because what I want is impossible." The next month was a blur of conversations, therapy sessions, tears, and more betrayals than I thought my heart could sustain. I confronted Emily again. She admitted everything, not just the physical relationship, but the emotional one. She'd been in love with James since her teenage years. She'd tried to ignore it, tried to date other men, but nothing worked. And when she came back to the city after university, seeing him had awakened something in her that she couldn't suppress. "I didn't plan this," she told me during one of our many painful conversations. "I swear I didn't set out to fall in love with your husband. It just happened. And then it became everything and I couldn't stop it, and I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop it." I believed her, and that was almost worse than if she'd been deliberately cruel. At least cruelty would have given me someone clear to blame. Instead, what I had was two people I loved who had betrayed me not out of malice, but out of genuine, anguished love for each other. James suggested therapy for the marriage. I went, but my heart wasn't in it. How could it be? Every time I looked at him, I saw him with Emily. Every memory we had was poisoned by the knowledge of what he'd been doing, thinking, feeling while we were together. But here's where the story gets complicated. Here's where I admit something I'm not proud of. During our second therapy session, our therapist asked me a question I wasn't prepared for. "Sarah, can you honestly say you were happy in this marriage before you found out about Emily?" I didn't answer. I couldn't because the honest answer was no. Over the course of the next few sessions, I started to confront a truth I'd been avoiding. James and I had been incompatible for years. We'd wanted different things, had different dreams, had different needs. I'd been waiting for him to come back to me, to be the man I married. But he'd been waiting for me to see that the man I married had died somewhere along the way. It wasn't an excuse for the affair. Nothing excused that, but it was a context that I couldn't ignore. And then, about 6 weeks after I found out, something shifted. I was at work when I got a call from Emily. She was crying, barely coherent. "I can't do this anymore," she said. "I can't keep doing this to you. I'm going crazy with the guilt. Every time I'm with James, I'm thinking about you. Every time I'm away from him, I'm thinking about you. And I realized, I don't think I love him. I think I just love the idea of him. I've been chasing a fantasy since I was a teenager, and now that I have it, it's not what I thought it would be. It's ugly, it's hurtful, and it's not worth losing my sister over." I was stunned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I ended it," she said. "I told him we can't see each other anymore. I told him he needs to either commit to fixing his marriage or he needs to leave, but he can't have both of us. That's not fair to anyone." I felt something shift in me when she said that. Not forgiveness, I wasn't ready for that, but understanding. James didn't handle the breakup with Emily well. For weeks, he was depressed, withdrawn, angry. He'd stare at his phone like it might ring with news that Emily had changed her mind. He started sleeping in the guest room. We barely spoke. And I had to confront something I'd been avoiding. What did I actually want? Did I want to save this marriage? Or did I want to blow it up and see if I could build something new? I spent a lot of time alone. I went to therapy by myself, without James. My therapist helped me understand that I'd built my entire identity around being married to James, around being the good wife who stood by her man, who forgave, who was the stable one. But in doing all that, I'd lost myself. You get to choose your own future. My therapist told me, and that choice doesn't have to be about what's right for him, or what's right for Emily, or what's right for anyone else. It just has to be what's right for you. So I thought about what I wanted, and the terrifying truth was, I didn't know. After 3 months of separation, James and I sat down and had the most honest conversation we'd had in years. "I'm not the man you married," he told me, "and I'm not sure I can be that man again, but I want to try. Not because I'm perfect or because we're soulmates or because I haven't made devastating mistakes, but because when I think about my life without you, it feels like grief, and I'd rather fight for us and lose than not fight at all." I listened to him and I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I was sad, yes. Disappointed, yes. Betrayed, absolutely. But the raw, consuming rage had faded into something more manageable. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I told him honestly. "I don't know if I can ever trust you the way I did before, but I know I don't want to throw away 15 years without trying to understand what went wrong." And so, we decided to try. The next 6 months were slow, painful, and sometimes beautiful. James and I started from the beginning. We went on dates. We actually talked. He told me about the pressure he felt to be the breadwinner, the successful one, the man who had it all figured out. I told him about my fears that I'd wasted my potential waiting for him to come home, that I'd built my entire self-worth around someone else. Slowly, we found each other again. Not as the people we were when we married. We were too different now, had been through too much, but as the people we'd become. Broken, imperfect, but willing. As for Emily, that was harder. We didn't speak for months. Not because I didn't love her. I did, but my love was fragile, easily wounded. She respected my boundaries, gave me space, and gradually we found our way back to each other. It wasn't the same, how could it be, but it was something. The day I finally truly forgave her, we were at our parents' house. Our mother had invited us both, not knowing the full extent of what had happened between us. We ended up in the kitchen alone, and Emily asked me directly, "Can you forgive me, or am I just someone you tolerate now?" I looked at her, my beautiful, broken sister, and I realized the answer. "I'm learning to forgive," I told her, "and I think that's enough for now. Forgiveness isn't a light switch, it's a process. But I'm in the process and I'm choosing to let you in. That has to count for something." She cried and I held her, and we both understood that we'd been through something that had fundamentally changed us. We weren't the same sisters we'd been before, but maybe, in some strange way, we were better. Certainly, we were more honest. Here's what I've learned after all of this. Love is complicated. It's not the simple, pure thing we see in movies. It's messy, it's selfish, it's generous, it's destructive, it's creative. It's all of these things at the same time. James loved me. I believe that now. But he also fell in love with Emily. And Emily loved James, but she was also in love with a fantasy version of him that didn't exist. And me, I was so focused on being the perfect wife, on making the marriage work, on not being the woman who couldn't keep her man, that I forgot to ask if I was actually happy. I forgot to ask if the life I was building was the life I wanted. The night I opened his phone, I thought I was discovering a betrayal. And I was, but I was also discovering my own life. The life I'd been avoiding looking at directly because the truth was too painful. We could have ended in a different way. I could have left him that day and never looked back. I could have cut Emily out of my life completely, and maybe that would have been the right choice for someone else. But for me, staying, with eyes wide open this time, with boundaries clearly drawn, with no illusions about who these people were or what they'd done, that was my choice. It's been 2 years since the 2 a.m. discovery that changed everything. James and I are still married. We're in a better place, though I'll be honest, sometimes I still have days where the betrayal feels fresh, where I catch myself wondering if he's thinking about Emily, if part of him wishes he'd chosen differently. But those days are getting rarer. We've learned to communicate in ways we never did before. We've set boundaries. We've allowed ourselves to evolve separately and together. It's not perfect, but it's real. And real is better than perfect ever was. Emily is dating someone new, a good man who treats her with respect. She's happy, and I'm grateful for that. We've rebuilt our relationship carefully. We do sister things again, lunches, movies, shopping. But there's a caution there now, a space that I'm not sure will ever be completely closed. As for the love I feel for both of them, it's been tested in ways I never thought it would be, and it's survived. Not unchanged, you can't go through something like this unchanged, but it survived. Sometimes I think about that night. I think about the woman I was, carefully controlled, rigidly trusting, so determined to believe in forever that I didn't see the cracks. I don't miss her exactly, but I understand her. She was doing the best she could with what she knew. And this woman I am now, the one who can hold love and betrayal in the same hand, the one who understands that people are capable of extraordinary contradictions. I'm proud of her. The truth is, marriage isn't about finding your perfect match and riding off into a sunset where you never fight or doubt or wonder what might have been with someone else. Marriage is about choosing every single day to stay, to work, to forgive, to grow. It's about waking up next to someone and deciding that you'll try again, even when they've broken your heart, even when you've broken theirs, even when you're not sure if you can trust anymore. Especially then. Because that's when love becomes real. Not when everything is easy and beautiful and perfect, but when everything is difficult and ugly and complicated, and you choose to stay anyway. That phone I opened at 2 a.m. didn't just show me my husband's betrayal. It showed me myself. It showed me that love isn't about blind trust. It's about seeing someone clearly, seeing all their flaws, all their contradictions, all their capacity to hurt you, and choosing them anyway. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve the chance to choose. If you've been through your own betrayal, if you know what it feels like to have the ground shift beneath you, leave a comment below. Let's talk. Because these stories, these real, messy, complicated stories, they matter. Thank you for letting me share mine with you.